Aloha. Can I get your attention? Thank you. We're going to start, and I'm Denise Yamaguchi, the Executive Director of the Hawaii Agricultural Foundation, and I'm so happy that we're able to meet in person tonight. There's a bunch of rules that I have to go over, but I'm going to start with sending a big mahalo to all of our sponsors, Alexander and Baldwin, Kamehameha Schools, Kona Brewing, Mahi Pono, Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits, the State of Hawaii, and the Ulu Pono Initiative. After a year of virtual events on Zoom, I'm excited to welcome you to our first in-person, actually hybrid event, because we have some people on Zoom at the Prince. And before we start the program, I'd like to remind all of you that we are hosting this event in accordance to safety protocols mandated by the City and County of Honolulu and the State of Hawaii. We appreciate all of you submitting your proof of vaccination or COVID negative test to be here with us tonight. And we ask that you keep your masks on except while eating or drinking. And when you arrived, you received a name card to mark your seat. So I hope you chose wisely because that's the seat you'll have for the rest of the evening. While we encourage you to mingle and talk story after the program, you will need to wear your mask while walking around. The city and county rules do not allow for you to walk around with your food or beverages, so if you go to talk to someone else at another table, you have to leave your drink and food at your table and your seat. Bentos will be served at 6:30, and you may order your second beverage from your seat at any time during the program. And due to our special event liquor license, the complimentary beer and wine service will conclude at 6:45. And the Prince Waikiki will have a cash bar open here inside the ballroom at 7 p.m. Tonight's program is being recorded and broadcasted on Zoom, and we ask you to please silence your phones and refrain from talking to your neighbors so that our guests attending on Zoom can fully experience the program. We greatly appreciate your cooperation and support to make this a safe and fun event. The Hawaii Agricultural Foundation launched Eat, Think, Drink in November of 2016 in an effort to spark meaningful conversations about important agriculture and food issues facing our community and to build and engage a larger network of conscious and caring consumers like you. This is our 15th Eat, Think, Drink, and we are honored to have keynote speaker Wayne Wade, president and co-founder of BioSoil Enhancers, the sole manufacturer of SumaGrow, with us this evening. He has over 30 years of farm management experience and more than 20 years of experience producing and selling microbial products for agricultural production and waste remediation. Growing up on a small truck crop farm, Mr. Wade and his family relied on best practices and sound management for their economic security. However, he also experienced firsthand the unintended consequences of synthetic chemical fertilizers on soil health and crop productivity. These experiences, combined with his entrepreneurial spirit, inspired his journey to create natural products that would promote healthy crops and soil while reducing its environmental impact. We're looking forward to Mr. Wade's presentation tonight, which will be followed by a panel discussion and live audience Q&A. For our attendees on Zoom, if you have questions, please feel free to enter them into the Q&A function on Zoom. It is my pleasure to now welcome Mr. Wayne Wade to the stage.
Good afternoon. I'm about to get you guys down south to Mississippi or someplace, you know. We'll treat you so many ways. When we get you there, you'll like some of them. And we'll use a different language, maybe. So, okay. A few years ago, quite a bit. You know what? When you get a little bit older, time fast. It just gets away from you. It goes in a hurry. But I want to talk to you tonight about curing the land and healing the people. Because what feeds us? Where does our health come from? Where does our enjoyment come from? Where's our food come from? What is this all about? So it's about the microbial content in the soil. Some people don't, a lot of you may not realize you have more bacterial cells in your body than you have human cells. If you ever think about it. Sometimes when we hear the word bacteria, we think, oh, that's bad. Actually, it's the microbes, okay, that protect us, that gives us curement, right? It gives us the nourishment that we need to have a vibrant, healthy life. So a few years ago, actually, I was in Guatemala. I was working with some shrimp operations in Guatemala. And this was quite a few years ago, but we decided that this time, I decided to test microbes, and when we were blending our own shrimp feeds, I said, let's see if we can get better feed efficiency here. Took about a year and a half, but we kind of perfected it. Healthier shrimp, healthier water, okay, less disease. We had all the things we were looking for. So this is where we're headed. I thought, well, when I moved back to the States, I thought, you know what, we'll try this on soil. Now, actually, we were doing remediation for a long time. We started out in waste treatment plants, grease traps, all the hard stuff. We have long carbon chains, the things that cause you and I heart attacks, all right? The things that we shouldn't eat, the difficult things. So then I figured out, if we had a thing that came along here that gave me some encouragement. There was a thing called Katrina, who blew half the part of the world that we lived in away. There wasn't a roof left almost in the state of Mississippi. We lost our manufacturing plant, our manufacturing ability, because when you're growing microbes, bacteria and fungi, you have to have a very pristine environment. Contamination is always your worst enemy. And so I thought, either we close shop and go home, or we're going to figure this thing out with soil. Because I really had an interest in soil. That's where I grew up. That's what I had worked in all my life. And so here we go. So I recruited some great scientists, some from Michigan State, some from other places, the University of Southern Mississippi and other places. And we eventually came up with a wonderful product for soil. Because what is soil? Soil is 25% air, 25% water, 45% mineral, 5% humus. What is humus? Humus is the decayed substance, okay? It's the very final stop. It's the part that holds your nutrients, your calcium, magnesium, potassium, sodium, all right? It provides the nutrient that we need, that plants need, and soil needs to keep things together. So that 5%, what does that 5% do for us? It feeds us. We depend upon it. In the state of Mississippi, we used to have some of the strongest, best organic matter that you could ever possibly imagine. The Mississippi Delta was totally rich. Today, the state of Mississippi, our organic matter runs from 0.05 to 1.5%. That's ridiculous. All right, it's sad. What happens to it? We keep over-applying it with chemical fertilizers and other inputs, pesticides, insecticides. So what we're doing is we're killing the microbes that we really, really, really need, okay, to produce good health, good yield. So what we do is we keep adding more. We have an addiction. The soil is addicted now. It's addicted to chemical nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and all these things that we should get the right way, but we don't. So can it be changed? Absolutely. But it takes time. So soil when you have a heavy wind or rain, all right, do you ever think about this? Plants eat off of plates kind of like you do, like you are tonight, plates. Those plates are negatively charged colloids. It can be the mineral or clay, but it has spaces on it. Spaces for positive, for the calcium, potassium, magnesium. Then those spaces are critical. A plant root says, you know what? I need a dose of potassium, so it takes it. And a little later it says, I need a taste of magnesium, it takes it. But if the soil is saturated in magnesium, what happens to those spaces? It gets taken up in magnesium. So pretty soon we have a plate full of magnesium. And so the other nutrients are not available. All right? And so that's what happens. It's tied up in the soil. When you hear the word tied up, that's what's happening. So we most often have the nutrients available, but they're not available. They're not because we've lost that balance. We are dust, okay? And we will return to dust. And that's not a biblical thing. It's a science thing. And it's a very important one. Because balance is more important than volume. I try to tell people this all the time. Volume's critical, but the balance is much, much, much more important. Same thing's true with us, right? If you eat too much of one thing constantly, what happens? You're going to have issues somewhere. You're going to have stomach issues, weight issues. You're going to have issues, I guarantee it. So it's all about balance. Microbes, when we do this, we selected bacteria over time to create balance in pH. If you take a stem of a healthy plant and you run the pH on it, it will hopefully run around 6.4 to 6.8. What do you need in your body? Same thing. Balance. The calcium ratio, all nutrients ride the back of calcium. All right? It's the pathway for your body to receive all the other nutrients. Too much calcium, though, ties up just about everything else because it has two pluses like magnesium. So, again, it's about balance. When we bring in these microbes, we knew that the slow colonizing microbes, okay, will produce an alkaline. What does that do? It raises the pH. A fast produces an acid, lowers the pH. So we're looking for is that balance. Some plants will tolerate different pH levels. We grow a lot of blueberries back in the South. All right, a blueberry will tolerate a lower pH, but it does better in a balanced pH. So somewhere around 6.8 is pretty much perfect with anything. I don't care if you're growing timber. I don't care if you're growing azaleas. I don't care what you're growing. That balance, we want that balance. It's critical. And that's what we're creating here. So there's another issue here. Contamination. When we kill the healthy macros, go ahead. I'm not very good at following script. Y'all can already see that, huh? Less compaction in the soil. We need airways, waterways. We need paths for oxygen and water, okay, to grow the microbes. Good soil is teeming with microbes. It's teeming with beetles, crustaceans. It's teeming protozoa. It's teeming with all these, and let's call them this life that is in the soil. Soil is a living thing. It's not dead. And so we need to take better care of it than we can. Go ahead. Because from the soil comes what we have. This is this slide up here. The soil improves the compaction of the soil. It improves the temperature of the soil. When you plant in the spring, if I go and plant my garden, I tell people the other day, you know, my backyard garden is about 2.5 acres, all right? It's fairly big size, but it keeps 5 grandkids working. And keeps them pretty busy. But soil compaction is everything. When most of your good microbes are aerobic, they require oxygen, must have. It requires it. And so that requirement doesn't work very well in impacted soil. Organic matter in the soil, we've been talking about the organic matter. Look at this. 2% organic matter level will hold 28,000 gallons of water an acre. But there's a problem with that. That's not good enough. We have a 79% runoff when that happens. What runs off? The first thing to leave are those colloids we were talking about. The nutrient, the things that we need. If we have a 5% organic matter, we can hang on to 80,000 gallons per acre of water in a good rain or irrigation or whatever. But we're still up to 45% runoff. And 8% is where we really need to get to that level. 8% will hold 128,000 gallons of water per acre. That's a big difference. Who uses the most water? All right. Where does our water go, our good water? Agriculture. I mean, we eat it up. When you run out and you go and look at these irrigation systems, man, we're putting it down. We don't have much, okay, really drinkable water left in the world, so we have to treat it. Did you ever think that we would be paying more for water than we do gas for fuel? I didn't believe that would ever happen, but a few years ago I got to look, man, look at this. Water is more expensive than fuel. You go to the store and buy your water, right? You're drinking water. That gives you the dead zones in the world. At the mouth of the Mississippi River, if you guys get a chance, when you fly over it, look at the chocolate pudding. All right? Several million acres of chocolate from the air. That's what you're looking at. Which is really runoff, okay? It's phosphorus and nitrogen runoff from the Mississippi River, where we have that beautiful delta. It's washing off. And when you have these heavy rains here, what's the first thing to leave? Okay, those colloids. They're the easiest to lose. They're precious. When you have this wind, y'all have the trade winds here. That's blowing pretty good, some pretty good wind. I notice it turns a few windmills around. But that's the first thing to leave your soil are those colloid plates. They're the tiniest. They're what we need to keep the most. So how do we do that? Bacteria, okay, the right microbes, produce exopolysaccharides, what we call EPS. All right? That's a microscopic gel, a glue that we need to hold it to the soil. That's important. All right? So if it's a binder. So we need that negative charge on the colloid. We need that soil glue, okay, to hold it in place during rain and water. We need that balance. The balance is critical. So the more of that stuff, the more that we give up, the more it costs us, I guarantee you. We did a nitrate runoff test in Illinois, okay, at the Arise Corporation. That's one of the best known test facility places in the country. And so they have these bays up under the soil. And so what we did, we took 50% fertilization. If I can just get people to cut it in half, do something. So they cut your inputs in half. And with that, we had a decrease of over 50% of the nitrogen runoff. So, and I guess I'll tell you this. We just filed a new patent to coat granulated dry fertilizer with microbes, to impregnate it. What does that do? Because a farmer's going to use it anyway, and if you're missing nutrients, you need to put those nutrients back in the soil somehow. If we can figure out how to do it organically, we'll do it organically. If not, they're going to use the chemical fertilizers. They're going to use it. So the best guess for us, we said, well, let's figure out how to work with that. So what happens when we impregnate that? What happens when we impregnate that? We're going to hold it and not let it run off, and not let it volatilize off as nitric oxide, as a gas. And that's important, because normally if you use 50% nitrogen in almost any crop or in any situation, 50% of that is, if you use nitrogen of any source, at least half of that's going to volatilize off, change polarities, and run off. It's going to move. Now, I've just been told I had 5 minutes, we're up. So, the important thing is, if we want to remain healthy as human beings, we need to eat healthy. We are what we eat. In fact, we had just trademarked a new slogan for supermarkets. And it's called SumaGrow instead of SumaGrow. So when you buy that food, you'll know that you're getting a food that's either grown totally organically or it's grown safely. All right? And that's important. And my dad farmed, he was 91 years old, in good health. Because we were raised on a truck farm where we had the right vegetables, all right, the right proteins, and I could go on all night. But it was a wonderful life. And I'd like to do the same. Don't know about you guys, but while we're here, we want to feel good. We can feel good if we have that right balance of nutrition. I guess that's it. I think my time's up. So. Okay. 3 minutes left. All right, I like that. We can run with that, all right? So, if we have a balanced soil, taking care of that, what we call a base saturation, is critical. A base saturation, what does that mean? I told you a while ago that all nutrients ride the back of calcium. So we want that soil, calcium to magnesium ratio, to run at about 80% of the total nutrients in the soil. Okay, we want about 60% at least calcium, the other 20% magnesium. If it's a real sandy soil, I want a little more magnesium. If it's a heavy clay soil, I want a little more calcium, because it'll help correct that. All right, so one way or another. But I want the two of them. So if I can balance that soil, but I've got to leave some room for the potassium, sodium, and other positives, right? That's important. So your base saturation is critical. The humus is absolutely critical. The other thing that I wanted to talk just for a second about is getting rid of the contamination in the soil that we have. When we treat our crops, our gardens, when we treat it with this product, with the microbes, what does the microbes do? They're going to eliminate, okay, that contamination. That's important to me, all right, is to get rid of it. So you're not just giving the soil what it needs, all right? We're doing that. But in additionally, we are remediating the soil, which is critical as well. And so environmentally, it makes sense. Nutritionally, it makes sense. Financially, it makes sense. When I'm talking to people about, you know, I say, well, can I afford this? Can't afford not to try it. That's what I tell them. Cannot afford not to. Because if I can get farmers to reduce their fertilizer, cut it in half, okay, use the product, increase their yields, and increase, okay, it works in every environment and in every situation. When I came up with SumaGrow, the idea there is because we realized that we're increasing the shelf life. When you increase the bricks, y'all know what bricks is, all right? I'm sure you do. Any wine drinkers in here, you know what bricks is, all right? But it's a measurement of the sugars, but it's really not just a measurement of the sugars, okay? It's a measure of the total mineral density of a plant. And which means the plant can handle more stress. We can get by with the first frost if we're using this in the South. I can work with that. More drought. You have to have some drought. There are places here, I know you have some extremely dry weather. All right? Because if you have more mineral crystals in a plant and less water crystals, we're conserving water and we're building nutrition. The plant can fight off disease. And one other thing, and I'll quit because I know I'm out of time. When we increase the bricks in the plant, okay, we're getting rid of insects. Most sucking insects they don't have a liver. And without the liver, they can't digest high complex sugars. That's a big deal. So I don't know if you've ever noticed in your garden or around your house somewhere you have something that's a really healthy plant. It doesn't have. It's not bothered by insects, particularly. And most of you bad insects are what we call sucking insects. And so let's build a healthy plant, build a healthy body, and keep a healthy environment. That works.